Please join me in standing to say the Three Refuges. I go for refuge to Buddha,
the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the three jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts.
Turn your chart book over in Heart Sutra on page 8.
Dhamma Prajna Paramita Pradaya Sutra. The Bodhisattva from the deep practice of prajna, paramita. Received the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. Om Shariputra. Form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna, paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant fearless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, para gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. Dhammaha prajna paramita pranaya sutra.
Please sing. Good morning. My name is Kunga Nyima, and I am one of the Dharma teacher interns here at the temple. It's great to see so many people here today, and young people as well. Really happy to be here. Thanks for showing up. My talk today is called Touching the Earth. In the traditional story of the Buddha, the former Indian prince Siddhartha Gautama is challenged by the deity Mara to prove his enlightenment by producing a witness to his claim. In reply, the Buddha reaches down with his fingertips to indicate that the earth is his witness. With the celebrating of Earth Day on April 22nd, this story inspired me to place myself, and by extension you, the Sangha, in the position of the Buddha, and to consider what type of witness the earth would be for us. Would our Mother Earth testify that we cared for her and nurtured her, or would she complain that we abused and neglected her? In order to consider this idea more fully, I will begin by talking about the Buddhist idea of interdependence. I will then ask us all to take a broad view of how human activity is changing our home, the earth. Next, I want to examine what Buddhist considers our personal duty to being stewards of our environment. I will follow this up with practical ideas about actions that we can all participate in to better serve our world. Lastly, I want to reinforce the idea that none of us lives in a vacuum, and that our thoughts, our words, and our actions have consequences for ourselves and for the rest of the universe. According to Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the deepest teachings on interdependence can be found in the Diamond Sutra. This sutra is a dialogue between the Venerable Sabudi and the Buddha. It begins with this question by Sabudi. If daughters and sons of good families wish to give rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, what should they rely on and what should they do to master their thinking? According to Thich Nhat Hanh, this can be understood to mean, if I want to use my whole being to protect life, what methods and principles should I use? In the sutra, the Buddha answers him, however many species of living beings there are, whether born from egg or from womb or from moisture or spontaneously, whether they have form or do not have form, whether they have perceptions or do not have perceptions, or whether it cannot be said of them if they have perceptions or do not have perceptions. We must lead all these beings to the ultimate nirvana so they can be liberated. In more modern terms, what the Buddha is implying is that all beings includes all humans, all animals, all plants, and all minerals. There's no hierarchy for beings in Buddhism. Everything that exists is built from the same building blocks as everything else in the universe. As the Heart Sutra states so simply, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. According to Thich Nhat Hanh, we even have to question our notion of what is a living being. Thich Nhat Hanh states that we think that we living beings are different from inanimate objects. But according to the principles of inner being, living beings are comprised of non-living being elements. When we look into ourselves, we see minerals and all other non-living being elements. Why discriminate against what we call inanimate? To protect living beings, we must protect the stones, the soil, and the oceans. Before the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, there were many beautiful stone benches in the parks. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. As the Japanese were rebuilding their city, they discovered that these stones were dead. They were radioactive. So they carried them away and buried them. And they brought in live stones. Do not think these things are not alive. They are alive. Atoms are always moving. Electrons move at nearly the speed of light. According to the teachings of Buddhism, these atoms and stones are consciousness itself. That is why discrimination by living beings against non-living beings should be discarded. As human beings on the planet Earth, we are dependent on many things, seen and unseen, for our existence. And many things, seen and unseen, are affected by our passage through life. We depend on the earth to provide the environment we need to grow and thrive, which includes the air of our atmosphere and the water of our oceans and the heat of the sun. We also depend on the nourishment derived from the many living things which coexist on the earth with us. The oxygen we breathe is provided by plants. The nutrition we consume is provided by plants and animals. The clothes that we wear, the buildings that we live in, created from animals, plants, and minerals. In turn, the earth depends on us to grow and thrive in similar to a way in how a living being depends on the cooperation and nourishment of its own cells to remain healthy. Healthy cells in the body work together to keep the body in balance. If a cell becomes cancerous and begins to multiply and claim more of the body's resources than is appropriate, the body becomes sick. Unless the cancer is treated, the sickness leads to death. As a hospice social worker, I have the opportunity to provide support to many cancer patients at the end of life. One of the challenges faced by these patients is accepting the fact that their own cells have turned against them. Death from cancer is usually a result of the cancerous cells reproducing out of control and forming tumors that strain the functioning of healthy organs in the body. The homeostasis of the body is overwhelmed, can no longer support human life. So sometimes popular culture can help us see things from a unique perspective. So I'm going to give you a quote here from Agent Smith of The Matrix. So this is Agent Smith talking to Morpheus. I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. You are not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area, you multiply and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And then the only way you can survive is to spread into another area. There's another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You're a plague, we are the cure. So that was Agent Smith lecturing Morpheus in one of the highlight scenes of The Matrix. So that's very theatrical. But now I want to talk a little bit about science and facts. According to NASA's Global Climate Change website, the planet's average surface temperature has risen about 2 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century. A change driven largely by increased carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere and other human activities. Most of the warming occurred in the past 40 years, with the 7 most recent years being the warmest. The years 2016 and 2020 are tied for the warmest years on record. As a result of this temperature change, the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets have decreased in mass. Data from NASA shows that Greenland lost an average of 279 billion tons of ice per year between the years 1993 and 2019, while Antarctica lost about 148 billion tons of ice per year during the same time period. As a result of this melting ice, global sea levels rose about 8 inches in the last century. The rate in the last 2 decades, however, is nearly double that of the last century, and that's accelerating slightly every year. So that's the science. And then from the spiritual point of view, this is a Sacred Path of the Warrior by Cho'gam Trungpa, a Buddhist teacher. When human beings lose their connection to nature, to heaven, and to earth, then they do not know how to nurture their environment or how to rule their world, which is saying the same thing. Human beings destroy their ecology at the same time they destroy one another. From that perspective, healing our society goes hand in hand with healing our personal elemental connection with the phenomenal world. So global warming and environmental pollution of our air, land, and water are obvious ways that human beings are leaving our mark on the earth. Cho'gam Trungpa poetically stated that when human beings lose their connection to nature, to heaven, and to earth, then they no longer know how to nurture their environment or rule their world. I find this statement powerful because I like the idea how it redefines the idea of ruling. In contrast to a militaristic view which promotes ruling the world through domination and exploitation, the Buddhist vision is to imply that we can only truly rule our world by saving it. Earth Day is a national reminder to consider how we as individuals and as a nation can work towards ruling our world through the process of saving it. Buddhism teaches that all life is interdependent, and everything we do has negative and positive results. Saving the world can seem like an unreachable goal for one person, but no one lives in isolation, separate from the world and the rest of humanity. We can all observe in our daily lives how our own actions are connecting positively or negatively with the environment. We can make daily decisions to nurture our world. Recycling, driving less, conserving energy, buying local are some of the daily ways that we can individually work to better preserve our environment. But we also need to take larger political actions as a community and as a nation in order to leave a world for our grandchildren and grandchildren that is healthy, clean, and safe. These national and global actions are necessary because industry and manufacturing are the largest sources of environmental pollutants and climate change. In addition to not buying products that are environmentally damaging or not purchasing from companies that have poor environmental records, we can also support politicians and legislation that seeks to reduce air, water, and land pollution and seek to reverse global warming. Our responsibilities, however, do not end here. One of the largest and most damaging catastrophes to our earth is modern warfare. Buddhist teacher Cho'gam Trungpa noted that human beings destroy their ecology at the same time they destroy one another. Nuclear and chemical warfare not only kill human beings, but create environmental damage that lasts for generations. The former United States Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon observed that the environment has long been a silent casualty of war and armed conflict. From the contamination of land and the destruction of forests and the plunder of natural resources and the collapse of management systems, the environmental consequences of war are often widespread and devastating. To preserve the environment, we also need to address this issue. As I said before, Buddhism teaches that all life is interdependent and interconnected. There is a meditation practice taught by Thich Nhat Hanh that involves looking deeply into different everyday objects to see how seemingly separate things are actually part of an interconnected web of being and cannot exist independently. Thich Nhat Hanh encourages us to mindfully examine a piece of paper to see the factory that created the paper, the raw materials the paper is created from, the worker that works in the factory, and even the family of the worker is essential to its creation. One way to identify if we are caring for and nurturing the earth as opposed to abusing or neglecting her in our daily life is to consider what part we are playing in the creation of garbage, pollution, and negative global environmental change. 2 weeks ago, Shuji talked about being mindful during our eating. If I take Thich Nhat Hanh's suggestion and look deeply into the ingredients that I just used for dinner, I can see the sun, the soil, and the seeds needed to grow the vegetables. I can see the farm workers, the truck drivers, and the store clerks that brought the food to the grocery shelf. I can also imagine the environmental effects resulting from the growing of this food. I can consider the pesticides used on the food and released into the water system if the food is not organic. I can consider the greenhouse gases that accumulate during the journey from field to shelf, and how much that has increased when I purchase food out of season or from far away. I can also think about the part of my dinner that goes uneaten. Is it going to a landfill or a composting bin? Every meal should be a reminder that we all need to pay attention to how we use or misuse the resources of the earth, because we all depend on the earth's support to survive. In January, I gave a talk about the 5 remembrances, and today I want to revisit the 5th remembrance. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Traditionally, Buddhists call this the law of karma. The Buddha taught that it is the intent behind our thoughts, words, and actions that generate the karma that we are experiencing now and in the future. According to the Zen teacher Gil Fronsdal, if we look closely, we can see that greed, hate, or delusion underlie all large-scale human destruction of the environment. Greed drives exploitation of our natural resources. Hate destroys vast lands through the ravages of war. And delusion perpetuates environmental harm when we don't understand the impact our actions have on the natural world. In opposition to the unwholesome qualities of greed, hatred, and delusion identified by Fronsdal, as Buddhists, we are called to cultivate the wholesome qualities of generosity, the four immeasurables, and wisdom to support our actions to help protect and support the environment. As I stated in my last Dharma talk, the Buddhists suggest that in order to overcome an unwholesome quality, we cultivate a wholesome quality. Okay, so it's kind of obvious, you just take the opposite. Therefore, the attitude of generosity can help us to overcome greed. Generosity enables us to see the value in sharing our resources with others rather than hoarding them. As Fronsdal points out, much environmental damage can be attributed to greed for profits gained from large-scale exploitation of natural resources. According to the Buddha, cultivating the four immeasurables of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity can help us to overcome the hatred that leads to war. Loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity instruct us to see others as not separate from ourselves. When we do this, we are motivated to seek the happiness of others and to reduce their suffering because we realize that we can share in their well-being and their success. As I stated before, the former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has said that the environment has long been a silent casualty of war and armed conflict. The environmental consequences of war are often widespread and devastating. And we can see that for ourselves right now in the news with what's going on in Ukraine and all the other countries at war in our world right now. The application of wisdom helps us to overcome ignorance. When we truly understand that all humans, animals, plants, and minerals are interdependent, we understand that our actions have significant consequences. As the Buddha stated in the Diamond Sutra, however many species of living beings there are, we must lead all these beings to the ultimate nirvana so they can be liberated. We Buddhists must dedicate our lives to saving all beings, all animals, humans, plants, and minerals. Climate change is currently being shown to be the latest way human beings are generating karma for the present and for the future. It can be attractive to attack others in our society who we feel are to blame for global warming and environmental damage. But Buddhism and human history teaches us that life is seldom that simple. Interdependence means that every one of us shares responsibility for the environment of our Mother Earth, of which we all depend on to survive. And all of us benefit when we harness our energies to work together for a healthy future. So I just want to leave you with that Cho'gam Trungpa quote one more time. When human beings lose their connection to nature, to heaven, and to earth, then they do not know how to nurture their environment or how to rule their world, which is saying the same thing. Human beings destroy their ecology at the same time they destroy one another. From that perspective, healing our society goes hand in hand with healing our personal, elemental connection with the phenomenal world. Thank you. Prepare yourself for meditation. So before we get to announcements, I wanted to pass on some tips about meditating. So we can so when we're up here, we can decide like how long the meditation should be after with the talk, right? And so I thought, oh, we'll just do 10 minutes. But then I thought, well, people want to get their money's worth. So maybe we should try and do 15 minutes. And then I was like, well, no, people seem pretty uncomfortable. So let's go back to 12 minutes. So I know that I know it's difficult to build your sitting practice because it was difficult for me to build mine. And so one of the things that I did was that I would start sitting, like just doing like regular stuff, like watching the movie or eating a meal. I would just like do my meditation sitting posture when I was doing these other things. I wasn't really meditating in my head, but I was doing that posture as a way to kind of get my legs loose, and get the muscles loose. So like, we just watching a movie, and I just sit in my meditation sit on my meditation cushion for the movie. Didn't have to be a Buddhist movie or anything, just anything like The Matrix. So that can be really helpful. So I encourage you to do that. I mean, there's two great things to that. One, you get your body used to that position so you can sit longer without being uncomfortable. And then you can really think about what's going on with your breathing. And two, you're bringing your meditation practice into your everyday life, just by practicing the form in those other activities. And that will automatically bring that mindset with it too. And you'll start to, just because you're sitting that way, will make you think about what you're eating and how you're eating. It'll make you think about what you're watching and why you're watching it. And, is it wholesome or unwholesome, So it's kind of a benefit. So I just wanted to pass that on. The other thing I wanted to say was that I had some resources, so for this talk, I made some quotes from some different writers, and I had that long quote from Cho'gam Trungpa. So I made some copies, and maybe I'll give these to Shane or Kajisu, and he can put those at the front, and you can pick one up if you're interested on your way out. So thank you again for attending today. I have a sheet of some announcements here. April events, Dharma and Sutra discussion group every Thursday. Radical Dharma Club, book club, first Wednesday of each month. And I'm not going to give you the details because the details are on our website and also in the newsletter. Virtual Death Cafe, we had that on April 13th, and that was really good. And we going to plan to do that quarterly, maybe. So that was just like a conversation on Zoom to talk about people's ideas or thoughts or impressions about dying, which is sometimes a difficult conversation for people to have. Lojong celebration was April 16th. So I guess I don't have the most recent. We have another recent date? No. Okay. So I'm giving you things that are going to happen in the month, and you're just going to have to look on the newsletter to find out the exact day. For the Lojong celebration, that's the first full moon. And as a practicing a series of slogans, that's a Tibetan tradition. Okay. There are always Buddhist-based recovery meetings here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And there will be a training for incense lighting today after service. So that one I can give you a date on. The fourth Sunday of the month is the Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple's Board of Directors meeting, and that is always open to all. And you would have to look on the website to get the times for that. So are there any other announcements today?
I wanted to thank you, Kunga. It was wonderful. My given name is Gail. My Dharma name is Kachisu. I'm on the board and also on fundraising committee. So our Sangha is possible entirely based on donations. We donate our time, we donate our resources that provides the lights, the rent, and even the incense that we enjoy every Sunday. There's dana boxes at each end of the temple. On our newsletter, and I see some people that I've never seen before, welcome. Sign up for the newsletter. there's links there should you choose to donate. You can do it by PayPal. We are filming, I'm assuming, again. Below the link, the YouTube link, there's also,
Oh yeah, you should probably stand over here. You'll be more on screen.
oh, okay. So there's links in the YouTube video for places to donate. And for those of you who shop on Amazon, you can go to Amazon Smile. And the temple, you can designate the temple. And we, as a temple, get a very small portion of your purchase, which is of no cost to you. Anything, Kate? Anything else I forgot to mention? Temple website, yeah. Yes.
You go to that
Thank you. And sign up for the newsletter. It's an incredible newsletter. So thank you.
All right. Any other announcements? Okay, please stand for the Gotham Atonement.
For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, or of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless line, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain.
You have left side, face the right side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll put away the back row cushions, and the rest of the cushions will stay up here.